Hello, everybody. Oh my gosh, it's a little bit mosquito-y in the bush today. It's good to see you today, and we are going to be talking about guilt and shame today. Anybody noticing guilt and shame coming up for you? Oh my goodness, can't wait. It's so wonderful to be with you. It's Deanne Riendo here with Rose Hope, and I am so excited to talk about guilt and shame. That might sound like a crazy thing to say, but for some of you and for me, I have been noticing a lot of energy coming to the surface. Things that I did as a child or experienced as a child or when I was younger that are coming to the surface, and it's feeling like shame. And I want to share just a particular story with you just to give some context. When I was 13 years old, I had a friend whose parents owned a little shop, a little store. And so the friends, the friend would invite me to go and help her, and we'd pack flyers and we'd clean and do a few little odd end jobs. And one day we were working in a back room, and we were actually putting some flyers together and packing boxes and things. And my friend left for a moment, and I thought, I'm going to have some fun because it's fun to have fun. And so I hid around a corner so that when she came back, I would jump around the corner and I'd say, and I'd scare her and we'd have a good laugh. This is how I envisioned it in my head. And so I hid around the corner and I heard her footprints coming, and I jumped out and I said, "Rawr," and it was not her, it was her father. And so the father obviously was startled and scared, and I felt really embarrassed. And I started to feel guilty that, here I was supposed to be working, and he's going to have a perception that I'm just farting around and playing. And so for days and days, I played the scenario over and over, and I could feel my face getting red every time I thought about, what I had done. And eventually that turned into shame. The shame of not doing the work, having fun when I'm supposed to be working, created all these limited beliefs for myself, which is a whole nother topic we won't talk about today. But it's interesting that over the last few weeks, a lot of this energy of feeling guilty for things I had done, things I had said, and then kind of sitting in this shame and feeling that I maybe wasn't as good of a person as I thought, or wasn't as worthy of a person as I had thought. And so it was very interesting for me that this story had come to the surface. And for many of you, I'm sure that a lot of things are coming to the surface right now, because we know that these things are coming to the surface so that they can be cleared, they can be dealt with finally. And so in this process, I started kind of going down this understanding of guilt and shame. So first of all, I want to identify what guilt is. And guilt can be a really good thing. There's good guilt and there's bad guilt. And the good guilt is the compass. It's the guilt that shows up when you know you maybe were out of line and you made a mistake. And that good guilt will help you redirect. And so what happens with the good guilt is that it goes away when you take appropriate action. It goes away when you step into, okay, I need to change something, either it's apologize or do something differently to rectify whatever it was that was done or said. The bad guilt is the guilt that sits within you, and it sinks your vibration and it stays with you. Bad guilt is not rectified when we do try and fix it. And so we're not meant to stay in the bad guilt. It's simply meant to be a compass. But if you're like me and you were conditioned as a child in however you were growing up, that like you must feel bad about the bad things you do and you must sit in that guilt because that's your penance, or that's how you, balance out the equation, is feeling bad. And the truth is that that's not the way. That is not the way. And when we sit in that, even though we've taken corrective action, then it sinks our vibration and it actually stops us from reaping the value of that experience. And so this false guilt or this bad guilt that we give ourselves gives us an opportunity to look at that more closely. And I'm inviting you to look at your life and things that you've done and notice if there's any guilt that you're still carrying. Now, guilt also shows up because we've done something that we shouldn't have done, or we don't do something that we should have done, right? It shows up in both of those aspects. Now, shame is a bit different. Shame is not just about one particular experience. So I felt guilty about that one particular experience in which I was playing when I should have been working, so to speak, and then I sat in that, but I let it turn into shame because I allowed it to dictate my worth, how I was showing up. I allowed it to consume me and the whole me. So it wasn't just I felt guilty about that experience. I now felt ashamed. I felt ashamed that I was not doing what I was supposed to be doing, which was working. And so then what happened is I attached a belief to that if I was working, I shouldn't be having fun. Is that an interesting epiphany? And so I've removed that limited belief now so that I can work and have fun. That's one big thing that I've changed. But more importantly than that, I've recognized that the shame was what I placed on myself. It wasn't what somebody else did or said necessarily. It was that I decided that I had to carry this with me and feel unworthy or feel like I wasn't doing what I should be doing, and allowed that to kind of fall into this thread for my entire life. And so this opportunity comes up around understanding shame and recognizing that we are self-imposing it. And so even though someone might say something or do something that makes us feel ashamed, it is us that chooses to take on that shame. It's just like blame. Someone can blame you for something. It doesn't mean you have to take it on, right? And so this is an opportunity for us to recognize where we've maybe taken some shame on, attached it to the wholeness of ourselves rather than, the guilt of one particular experience. And how is that serving you? How is that supporting you? How is that allowing you to step into your full power? And so in expressing this topic, the invitation is for you to recognize guilt and shame, how it shows up for you, recognizing how you might want to adjust or recalibrate how that shows up for you. How are you leveraging guilt to help you to be better, to take more divine and appropriate action versus allowing it to sink you, allowing it to take away from the quality of your life. And so that is my invitation for today. And let me tell you, there is such freedom when we look at these experiences. And I'll be honest, I've been looking at my whole life and going back in time to every moment where I felt guilt, where even with appropriate action, that guilt didn't go away. And then recognizing how I chose that guilt, thinking that that was what I needed to do. And then really allowing that, learning from that experience. And all of a sudden that guilt, and of course the shame that oftentimes goes with it, starts to dissolve and dissipate. Without me needing to consciously say, I get rid of the guilt. Instead I say, I'm looking at this. What can I do? What can I learn from this? And so the opportunity is for us to learn from the experience now. Take what we can from it. And as soon as we pay attention to it in that light, rather than, again, wallowing in it, but looking at it from a perspective of, What can I glean from this? What can I take? What can I receive in terms of value for this? We alchemize the energy. So we automatically shift that energy, whether it's guilt, whether it's shame, whatever that is. And we start to shift that energy so that we can become these bringers of light, so that we can stand more fully in our truth and in our power, and in a vibration that allows that expansion and allows that light to even shine more brightly. So that is the story. That is the guilt and the shame. I need to get out of these bushes. I'm being mauled by mosquitoes and spider webs. So until next time, I wish you many blessings. And I invite you to reach out. If you do need some help moving through some of these emotions and energies that are showing up, please reach out. It doesn't have to be hard, and it does not have to be work. It can most certainly be fun. Even in the suffering, even in the journey, we can certainly find joy in it. So that's it for today. Have a wonderful, glorious day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.